Hello everyone and welcome back. If you're new, my name is Douglas Johnson. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, ordained minister, and certified Kiloby inquiries facilitator. Today I wanted to speak a little bit to you about what I consider to be the 4 pillars of human health. Before I get to that, I do want to thank my patrons on Patreon who make these videos possible. Without their support, these videos simply would not be made. I wouldn't have the time and resources to do that. If you'd like to join that community and help support me making these videos, please check out the links in the description below if you're on YouTube. And please keep in mind that liking, subscribing, and commenting on YouTube helps spread the word. So if you don't want to make a financial contribution to support me, but you find value in this, then liking, subscribing, and commenting helps the algorithm spread the videos further, and then more people get to see them. So again, thank you to everyone who supports in however way that you do. It's very much appreciated. Okay, so what are the 4 pillars of human health? Well, these are things that many spiritual traditions have touched on throughout the years. Opinions about how the pillars should be viewed depends on a temporal and cultural framework. So at one point in history, things like eating pork was maybe very dangerous to your health because of certain bacteria and diseases that pigs might catch, and then humans eating those pigs might get very sick or die. So you will find in many traditions there'll be dietary restrictions or recommendations, fasting restrictions, Ramadan, things like this. You'll find these in many spiritual traditions. So sometimes people will look at me as a yoga teacher and say, you're not a nutritionist, you're not a dietitian, you shouldn't be even talking about diet. But as a spiritual teacher, and yoga for me is part of that, I absolutely have a responsibility to talk about diet. Now, should I recommend a particular diet to you or insist that you follow a certain diet? I don't think so. And again, this is what we see in some traditions, is they will have a very strict diet and recommend everyone follow the same diet. I personally don't think that this is a good idea based on modern research and information. It seems like what we're learning is that everyone has a different constitution based on their genetic makeup and other factors. And so the right diet, what is healthy, what is good for one individual, might be very harmful or dangerous for another individual. An example of this is I heard a scientist talking about research on different diets, and what he said was essentially that the vegan diet doesn't work for everybody, but the people it does work for, their health seems to be exemplary. Okay, so if you're understanding this, again, if you put all your own personal belief and ethical judgments and values aside, okay, because some people feel very strongly that everyone should be vegan or that everyone can be vegan, or or other people feel strongly the other way, maybe that veganism isn't natural, it's not something we find in traditional human cultures. So I don't want to enter into that debate. But if we just look at the scientific research and facts, what this scientist is saying, veganism, not for everybody, but the people that it is for, their health tends to be really, really exemplary, really, really high. Okay, so again, this isn't an opinion piece. This isn't, based on people's feelings. This is based on the current data that we have. And again, this is meant simply as an example. So the first pillar of health is going to be diet. Now, I'll say this, that the standard American diet, which is abbreviated as SAD, appropriately enough, this is not the appropriate diet for anybody. So if you are just eating what everyone else eats, if you're eating out at restaurants and fast food joints, and you're eating the standard American fare, unfortunately, this is not optimized for anyone's health. It doesn't matter if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, or you're into paleo or carnivore diet or keto. The standard American diet is full of harmful chemicals and pesticides and food that lacks in nutrition. So this diet, the standard American diet, if you've never done any dietary intervention, that is probably not going to serve you. It doesn't matter who you really are. You might be able to get by on that diet. I did for many years. But I can see now, looking back, that probably my health was never as optimal as it could be. Another thing I'll mention is fasting. So whether it is prolonged fasting or intermittent fasting, again, many spiritual traditions have this built in. And what we find looking back evolutionarily is it's likely that human beings never had access to unlimited calories like we do today. So the situation we live in, where I can open the fridge at any time and have as many calories as I want, that's a very new thing. And our digestive system and our body is not adapted for that. And it actually creates problems for us. So it's a good idea. Again, there's not one size fits all. There are many ways that you can integrate fasting into your life, whether it's one day a week or once a month, maybe for a longer period of time, or even daily for 14 or 16 or 18 or 20 hours. There's OMAD, eating only one meal a day. Again, you will find at different points in your life, given your lifestyle, other things that are going on, one of these will likely fit with you. So diet, again, I'm not going to recommend vegetarianism, or even for yogis. Like, people think that, oh, you're a yoga teacher, so you're a vegetarian. No, okay? I don't necessarily think it's as simple as that. So again, if you have the resources, getting tested, seeing what your nutritional makeup is, finding out what foods you're allergic to, very, very important. Many people are allergic to dairy. Many people are allergic to gluten, certain nuts, cheese, right? So that goes with the dairy. These are things that you may not realize, but are actually causing distress to your gut microbiome and your body, and causing inflammation, which causes pain, can cause lethargy, right? Lack of energy, lack of mental focus. Some things can actually inflame your brain. So you might have trouble focusing or concentrating at work. Again, these are all things that possibly can be addressed through diet. So I recommend everyone do their due diligence. If you want to talk with me, or I may have some recommendations or suggestions of where to look. But again, there's a lot of people and a lot of information that has way more depth than I do. I am, at the end of the day, still a yoga teacher and a spiritual teacher, not a dietitian, not a nutritionist. So you will need to take the mantle up. My only recommendation is that you do take up that mantle and explore what is the right diet for you. And again, making this a conscious thing. So again, lots of different diets: veganism, vegetarianism, pescatarianism, keto, paleo, carnivore, lots of different Mediterranean diet, which is supposedly one of the best diets, especially in terms of longevity. So which one do you feel the best on, given your makeup, given your lifestyle? That's up to you. Same with the fasting. Do I do 16-8, 5-2, OMAD, A prolonged fast, again, how does your body respond to that? Your mind, emotionally, diet is going to affect all of these things. Okay, so I said there were 4. The first one is diet. The next one I'd like to talk to you about is sleep. Now, I don't find much information in the spiritual traditions recommending sleep. If I had to guess, that's because it was probably a given for our ancestors. Sleep was probably not an issue. It was not a problem. Probably people didn't experience a lot of insomnia. Part of this is there was no light pollution. There were no devices. We probably, basically got tired when it got dark. We started winding down, getting ready for bed. And when the sun came up, we woke for most of human history, and probably when many of the spiritual traditions were codified. So I'm not saying it's not in there somewhere, but in my exploration, I haven't come across a lot of tenets about the importance of sleep. Where this comes from, though, is from modern research. Many scientists, again, people who I respect, people who are running studies, they're showing more and more the importance of sleep. Now, I need to be clear, some people can have a cup of coffee or a drink of wine and they will report, I sleep just fine. I want to be clear though, if we were to actually study your brain waves and study your sleep patterns, we would find that the cup of coffee or the glass of wine actually prevented you from going into a deep sleep cycle. So this is an important thing to understand about being a human being, is our conscious awareness is very, very limited. Very limited. Okay, it has a very limited bandwidth and capacity. But yet, that's what most of us make our conscious decisions on. We say, oh, he says you can't have coffee after noon. That's ridiculous. I have coffee with dinner every night. I sleep just fine. You probably don't. And again, signs of this might be moodiness during the day, lack of energy, lack of focus, depression even. So all kinds of things can be affected by this. Additionally to alcohol and caffeine, there is food, eating too late, eating right before bed, snacking, and the type of food that you eat. If you eat foods with a high glycemic index that send up your insulin, when you come down off that insulin, your body produces a lot of cortisol, and cortisol wakes you up. So this is very often characterized by waking in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep throughout the night. Also, if you eat or drink before bed, very often you need to wake up to go to the bathroom, and that's a condition called nocturia. That's something I experienced most of my life, so much so that I just assumed that that was normal, that everyone got up in the middle of the night to go pee. That's not true. You should be able to sleep straight through. And additionally, when you do get up to pee, even if you have to because you have a small bladder or something like that, it does affect your sleep cycle. So again, one researcher that I read a book by, she actually expressed it this way. She said, sleep and aging are so closely linked, the quality of your sleep and how you're aging, that we actually don't really know for sure whether you sleep worse because you're getting older or if you're getting older because you're sleeping worse, okay? So again, many of us in our culture, we have a sort of attitude like, well, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'm fine on, 2 hours of sleep, or whatever it might be. Again, I don't know enough to say for certain that everybody needs a full 7-8 hours of sleep, but at least some experts say so, okay? And even if you feel like you're doing okay on less sleep, just keep in mind that that may not be the case, And some of the issues that you're dealing with may actually be caused by that lack of sleep. So even if, again, if you have mental focus and you don't feel tired during the day, maybe you have pain in your body and inflammation, and maybe that is aggravated, again, by lack of sleep. So again, second pillar of human health is going to be good, quality, uninterrupted sleep. It's really not a luxury. Just like diet, proper diet, it's not really a luxury. It's actually an essential if we really want to maximize our health and happiness. Okay, so 4 pillars. We have the first one, which is going to be diet. We have the second one, which is sleep. The third one, very near and dear to my heart, is exercise, movement. As you can see right now, I'm out walking as I film this. To the best of my ability, I have tried to cultivate a life where movement is just a part of every day. Does it need to be vigorous movement? Does it need to be, CrossFit? Does it need to be running? No, but those are all great things to have as maybe part of your week. Generally, movement, it's a good idea to mix it up. Even if you love yoga, it's a good idea to not only do yoga all the time. If you are going to focus mostly on yoga, then try and change up the type of class that you're doing, not always doing the same sequence. I'm going to repeat this because I know some yogis get very fixated on a sequence, and they try and get better and better and better at one sequence, and they try and measure their progress that way. From everything that I've studied and learned about health and human movement, this is not ideal. Okay? It can be very gratifying. It is especially appealing to people with a type A personality because, again, they can see their progress. They are doing the same posture every class, and they can see their incremental progress. But is this actually good for our overall health? No. So yes, do your sequence class once a week, twice a week, but get out and walk or do some other kind of class a few times a week. Generally speaking, again, the more varied our movement, the better. I'll also speak to those who get into competitive sports. Same thing. You may be very obsessed with competitive tennis or running or pickleball or other competitive sports, so much so that you train to the point where your body is beginning to hurt and you're beginning to actually injure yourself or damage your body in some way. And because you are so obsessed with this one style or this one sport, you ignore the pain, you ignore the signs that you should be laying off, and you quote unquote push through. Again, we are ignoring the signs, the warning signs that our body are giving us. And generally speaking, that is not going to produce optimal health and happiness. So movement, not an option, absolutely essential. And I could be talking to my younger self here. I am not someone who's naturally drawn to moving and exercising. I would much rather be in a music studio, playing music, building something indoors, on a computer, making a website or a presentation. But during the parts of my life when I did that, I often experienced depression and anxiety. I was not at my healthiest. Certainly physically, I was not at my healthiest, but also mentally and emotionally. So I can speak from experience, even as someone who isn't particularly drawn to movement naturally. And they've done studies and they've shown some people are, some people aren't. Some people go for a run and they feel like $1 million. That's not me. If I go for a run, I do not feel great. I might, again, long term, feel better, have more energy, have a better mood, but not right after the run. Not even maybe that day. That whole day I might feel kind of worn out. All right, so keep that in mind. If I'm describing your experience, know that if you're dealing with things like stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness. So again, these four often affect one another. One of the reasons why you may have trouble sleeping is you're not moving enough. You're not exercising enough, okay? So getting out there, exercising. Again, this is what the modern research tells us. Again, these four keep popping up in podcasts, in the books I'm reading, on videos that I'm watching by experts in the field. These four keep coming up. Exercise is found in the yoga tradition, but there are other, it's also found in the Taoist tradition. I'm sure there are others, but there are some traditions where you don't hear mention of exercise. So again, I suspect this is because the culture in which that teacher or tradition arose, that culture probably exercise was a given. You were maybe talking to farmers, people who worked the land, people who were very physically active. So you didn't need to tell them to move. They were already moving. So, you know, a teacher wouldn't address a problem that's not there, okay? Part of this that I'll kind of put in as a part two for this one is get off of your devices, get outside, get off of the computer. It's ironic because you're probably watching this on a computer or phone. So again, phones, computers, great for educating yourself, learning, but you need to limit the exposure. You need to get outside and you need to socialize. That's also very important. So we have diet and fasting, we could say. We have sleep. We have movement and exercise. And then the last one is meditation. I'll call this conscious relaxation. Some people may try thinking, or they might want to say, oh, isn't that sleep? No, sleep is unconscious relaxation. Very important. Very, very important. But what we're learning, and again, this is the scientific research that is saying this. Yes, the Taoist and yogic tradition, the Buddhist tradition, these have all said meditation is important, okay? So for thousands of years, people have been meditating and extolling its virtues. But now what's different for us modern people is the scientific community is coming into line and agreeing with these ancient traditions, okay? So again, many of the books I'm reading these days, they are not by gurus, they are not by Taoist masters, they're not by Buddhist enlightened teachers, they are by scientists, they are by people who create studies and research, and they all recommend meditation. Now, just like diet and movement and fasting, there are many different ways to meditate that have different benefits. They are going to affect your brain differently, and some are easier to get into at first, and while they might be easier at first, eventually you might outgrow them. You might find that you plateau at a certain point, and that in order to dig deeper into yourself and to really get at the stress or anxiety that you might be dealing with, that you need to learn another style of meditation. So this is something I've studied for decades. There are so many different kinds of meditation. So this could be something that I can consult with you. If you are interested, we could book a session, and usually we can sit down and figure out what might be a good approach for you. And then just like a doctor might recommend something and then ask you for feedback on how the medicine, are you having any side effects? What's going on with you? The same can be done with a meditation technique. We can prescribe a meditation technique for you, see how it's working, and if it isn't working, we could choose another one, or maybe reduce the time. There's all kinds of ways to work with it. But my point is that pretty much, again, without exception right now, the research is saying that if you really want to optimize health and happiness, some kind of meditation, some kind of mindfulness, some kind of conscious relaxation will need to be a part of your day. The main thing involved in mindfulness and conscious relaxation is a willingness to sort of stop doing. And this is important because some forms of meditation are just more doing, more striving. For me, I've been doing this a long time again, and the most powerful mindfulness techniques and meditation techniques, they lack this sense of striving. They lack this sense of, I need to get somewhere, I need to do something, I need to be better, I need to be more spiritual, I need to be anything. And so we simply create a space where we are allowed to just be for a few minutes. Now, how long that space is, it could be a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I think 20 minutes, around 20, 21 minutes, you are probably in the sweet spot for many, many people. Most of us, if we're honest, we can find 21 minutes to devote to something. For some people, they like doing more than that, and that is fine. I'm not going to say there's not a benefit. Certainly there is, but I am not a teacher who really subscribes to the idea that meditation is the end-all and be-all, or that everyone should become a meditator, or that life should not be lived. Do I think meditation is an absolute essential part to fulfilling your potential as a human being for peace, love, joy, happiness in this life? Yes, I think it's essential. I think you will be hard-pressed to do that without meditation. But what form and how long, that can vary. And again, at a certain point, you might find that more is not necessarily better, okay? At a certain point. I'm not going to say 20 minutes or an hour even. You're probably still going to benefit at an hour, maybe even 2 hours if you've got it. But again, if you're meditating and meditating and meditating, what else are you missing out on? One of my teachers, his teacher was a Japanese gentleman, and supposedly, this is a story that was referred to me or told to me by my teacher. He said that his teacher in Japan, he would have monks come and visit him, and they would visit and try and learn yoga from him because they were in so much pain from all the meditation they were doing. They were just sitting hours and hours and hours and hours of meditation. Again, sure, there's benefit in meditation, but at what point would adding a little bit of asana or stretching or exercise in actually maybe improve the results of the meditation? I think many of us, again, think that, that somehow just meditating our lives away would be the most spiritual thing that we can do. One teacher I really like once said that meditation is both the most underused and overused spiritual technique, and I couldn't agree more. It is underused in its true capacity, in its true intention, and then it's very much overused by many people. It's used in the wrong way, meaning it's ineffective, and they're overusing it. They're trying to use it as a catch-all, as the answer to everything, and it's not the answer to everything. All right, everyone. So I hope today's talk was helpful. Not a particularly deep spiritual talk, but for most people, mental, emotional, and physical health are very much going to affect our spiritual progress. So these 4 pillars, again, most of what I've learned recently about these 4 pillars has come from the scientific and medical community, not from the old spiritual traditions. Again, this is because our culture, our lifestyle, has been affected by technology in the last 200 years. And so what was a relatively stable and healthy lifestyle that most people lived for most of their life, right? You grew up for tens of thousands of years. We lived in agriculturally based cultures, and you lived in a village, and life did not change. In your lifetime, there was not a lot of change, if any, depending on when you were living. Literally, like your neighbors would be your neighbors your whole life. You might have, one king or mayor your entire life. Today, everything changes so rapidly. The latest thing is AI. Who knows what effect that's going to have on us? Certainly, social media has had an effect on us in the last 15, 20 years. Before that, we had things like television and radio and birth control and just different types of technology that affect the way we behave as human beings. And again, our food has not stayed the same. Much of what we call food today, people would not have dreamt of eating or calling food. They didn't exist. There's so many things that you could eat today and get calories from that are basically manufactured in a laboratory. So we have to keep this in mind. This is why some of these things for these ancient teachers, they were a given. As a modern teacher, I find that I have to address these things because they will affect your spiritual journey. So if you're following me on Patreon, I post a lot by these scientists, biohackers, authors, doctors that I'm sort of paraphrasing in this talk. So if you're interested, please go to my page. It's a wealth of knowledge. I'm posting videos and articles by these people all the time, and you can start to follow them on your own and go down the rabbit hole and learn more. Again, it's beyond the scope of what I do. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an author. I'm not someone who is authorized to be an authority on these things. What I am is somebody who can say, hey, you need to pay attention to this. I'm a coach, I'm a guide. I can point you in the direction of, hey, this is something you need to investigate. So the gist of the talk today is if these 4 things, sleep, diet, exercise, and meditation, if you do not have an adequate relationship with all 4 of these, then, and again, they're interdependent. So if one is lacking, you might find the other ones are also lacking. So if any of these are not optimized, I recommend taking the time and energy to optimize all of these in your life. And I think once you do, spirituality aside, you're already going to feel a lot better. You're going to have more focus, concentration, energy. Your mood will be better and more stable. And this will affect your relationships. It will affect your work. It will affect everything else in your life. From that foundation, it is much, much easier to move into a deeper relationship with spirituality, which again, as many of you know, is a process of first waking up and then cleaning up. We wake up, we see the nature of reality, and then with those clear eyes, you could say, with that spiritual vision of the third eye, we can then begin to clean up the mess from the past, what we could call our karma, which lives in our body. It's a very somatic experience. And again, this is something that we can explore together if you're interested. All right, everyone. So thank you for listening. Thank you again to my patrons on Patreon for making the video possible. Thank you for all of you on YouTube who like, subscribe, and comment. Again, it does really help me out. And if you have any questions or you feel that I can be of assistance to you, please reach out. We'll schedule something. And currently, I'm still working on a donation basis. I do have a recommended donation for working with me one-on-one, but if you are having a lot of financial difficulty, we can still book a session and we can possibly find some way to work together, even though you may not be able to compensate me financially. For me, generally, I want to help those who really could use my help, but it does go both ways. I also need support and help. So anything that you can help me out with is very, very much appreciated. All right, everyone, thank you so much. And until next time, namaste and have a beautiful day.